pleased that we've built a solid foundation to continue our collective efforts ahead of COP27 in Egypt later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Jorgensen. And now for the COP26 President, Alok Sharma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for those of you who've come here on a public holiday to be here with us physically and who are online as well. I want to start by thanking Minister Jorgensen, my dear friend, Dan Jorgensen, and of course the Danish government for hosting this ministerial meeting. And we are really all incredibly grateful for the way this has been put together, how effective it's been, the organisation, and particularly the warmth of the welcome. So thank you so much to Minister Jorgensen and his team. I'm also delighted to be able to co-chair this with Minister Shoukry, the COP President-designate for COP27. Egypt and the UK are working closely and will continue to do so on the road to COP27. So 6 months ago, almost 200 parties came to the UK and collectively made history by forging the Glasgow Climate Pact. And over the past 2 days, a representative group of ministers, as you've heard from Mr. Jorgensen, almost 50 governments have been represented here, have come together to see how we honour those promises and those pledges that were made in the Glasgow Climate Pact and make this a meeting about implementation. And I have to say, this was not just another meeting in the climate calendar. This was not about people restating their positions. This was about ensuring that we had affirmation of commitments. It was about practical action, and it was focused very much on how we will deliver on the commitments that we have all made. And I'm very pleased to say that we did make progress. We made progress on discussions on emissions reductions, on adaptation, on loss and damage, and of course, very importantly, climate finance as well. And frankly, there's been a high degree of consensus on what we must do to deliver in each of these areas. We heard positive signals about countries looking again at their 2030 NDCs. Just to remind colleagues, all countries agreed as part of the Glasgow Climate Pact to look again at their 2030 NDCs by the end of 2022. And of course, this also includes considering how those NDCs can be strengthened through sectoral targets as well. I can also tell you that State Secretary Morgan of Germany and Minister Guilbeault of Canada have agreed to coordinate a progress update on the $100 billion delivery plan that was published last year in October ahead of COP26. And this will be based on the 10 collective points that were set out in that delivery plan, and it will cover the commitment to double adaptation finance, as well as the very important issue of access to finance. And then along with Minister Shoukry and the high-level champions, we are pleased to announce a new independent high-level expert group on investment in climate action, and that's going to be co-chaired by Lord Nick Stern and Vera Songway. And the aim of this group is to develop policy options to encourage and enable the investment and finance necessary for delivery of the Paris Agreement and the Glasgow Climate Pact. And this, colleagues, is very much vital work. So together, countries have helped to build momentum towards delivering the Glasgow Pact over these last 2 days. It is up to all countries to maintain this momentum, to honour their commitments, and to go further and faster in the next 6 months that remain ahead of COP27. And we need to ensure that by the time we get to Sharm el-Sheikh, the world can see that we mean business. It's not just about words, it's also about actions. And that's what we want to see translated on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. And now I give the word to COP27 President-designate, Mr. Shoukry.
Thank you very much. Allow me, first of all, to extend deepest condolences to the government and people of the United Arab Emirates for the just announced passing away of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed, President of the United Arab Emirates. I'd like also to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to Minister Jorgensen and the government of Denmark for hosting this meeting, and also to all ministers and high officials who participated and moderated the discussion throughout the 2 days. Together with Minister Sharma and the President of COP26, We envisage that engagement in this format, an informal format, and a non-negotiating format, it would be beneficial for us to discuss the 4 topics of adaptation, mitigation, loss and damage, and climate finance, and that this would help capturing progress and where we stand on implementation since Glasgow and allow for positive negotiations to proceed in Bonn in less than 3 weeks' time. During our meeting, I personally had the pleasure of exchanging views with participants from governments, practitioners, and the representatives of constituencies from the civil society and non-party stakeholders. I also had the pleasure of meeting with representatives of the civil society groups who are demonstrating outside the venue here since yesterday. And in this regard, I have to say I was moved by their energy, motivation, and continued principled position to motivate the governments to undertake the responsibilities to address the challenges of climate change. I would like to assure them and all other stakeholders that COP27 will be an inclusive COP where all actors will be welcome and accorded the needed platform to voice their views and demonstrate their action. I also want to reaffirm the importance that Egypt attaches to science related to climate change, as reflected in the findings and recommendations of the IPCC and the IPBES, and stress on the importance of achieving just transition and climate justice, listening to different stakeholders, including climate activists, youth, and women. At COP27, I expect all parties and stakeholders to come together to demonstrate their continued commitment to curb emissions, enhance adaptation, and deliver on climate financing, laying out a clear path towards implementation of action on the ground, getting us closer to the goals of the Paris Agreement. As a practical demonstration of the priority that the Egyptian presidency attaches to implementation, I am pleased to announce that the COP27 presidency, together with the UN Regional Economic Commissions, will launch a series of 5 regional forums on projectionalization of climate finance in accordance with the UN Climate Change High-Level Champions. Finally, I call upon all parties and stakeholders to show enhanced ambition on implementation, accelerate putting pledges and commitments into action, as well as ensure that their NDCs are revised and aligned to the goals of the Paris Agreements. Once again, I want to thank the government of Denmark for the excellent organization, the environment, and the hospitality that has been accorded to this meeting, and to thank President Sharma, President of COP26, for the excellent collaboration that has existed between us as we move forward in lead to the SBs. We are certain that the contribution of all parties will be fundamental, and I look forward to continuing our cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, UNFCCC Executive Secretary Espinosa.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, I won't repeat what the distinguished colleagues that have preceded me have said, but yes, one thing I will repeat, which is my gratitude to the government of Denmark for bringing us together. Personally to Minister Jorgensen for your dedication, commitment, and leadership that you have shown not only in this meeting but in the process as a whole. And also to COP President Alok Sharma and COP President-designate Minister Shoukry for your leadership and for dedication and for bringing the group together. To meet 6 months after Glasgow and 6 months before Sharm el-Sheikh in a very different international environment from the one that we were facing when the Glasgow conference closed. So this has been an extremely timely conversation. One element that I would like to underline is that there was really full engagement of all the 50 countries that were here. Yes, it was not intended to be a negotiating session or anything like that, but we do know that in order for us to get to the negotiations and to get to build up some common understandings, these kind of conversations need to happen.